Hi, I am the Nerdy Movie Guy, and I'm here to talk about The Batman. Now, this movie is one of my favorites, so there's a lot I want to say about it, but I want to start with the opening. Now, the opening to The Batman was a beautifully constructed opening, and there are two parts. I think there are two parts to the opening. The first part is the Riddler. Everything about it was just eerie, it was unsettling, it was almost terrifying. We see him stalking this home, and just the way it's shot, you can just tell he's going to be a very entertaining, very scary villain. What I mean by entertaining is he's the kind of villain you want to see in a movie like this. We move on to the next shot, and he is inside this person's home. And I believe it's when the lightning strikes, you see him hiding in this place. And it's just a scary way to film this kind of scene. And it really worked. It really built the ambiance and mystery to this character. Fans going into this movie knew that the Riddler was going to be the villain. We've had so many variations of the Riddler. I don't know what other fans were expecting, but I was not expecting what we got. And that is a compliment, and it worked. This Riddler was so different on so many different levels that he is probably one of my favorite movie villains of this recent decade. It was amazing. And when we get to part two of the opening, what I think is really the second opening is not Riddler focused, but it's Batman focused. He's monologuing. You hear his voice in the background while we're getting shots of Gotham. And they get right into it. He is a presence of Gotham. He's someone that the thugs and the criminals, they fear. And not a lot of people have really seen him. That's the sense we get in this second part of the opening. And when he finally walks out of the darkness for the first time, the first shot of Batman, we get into this fight. And it's just wildly entertaining. It's brutal, it's violent, it's gritty, it's everything I've wanted. Now, this Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, in my opinion, can't really be compared to the other Batmans we have had. And what I mean by that is one of the first things I noticed coming out of the movie is Batman gets so much more screen time than Bruce Wayne. He's only Bruce Wayne for just a small portion of this movie. So we get to see more of the suit. We get to see more of Batman's impact on Gotham. And we really get to see him struggle with, is he making an impact on Gotham? Is he making a difference? Is Gotham really better having a vigilante around? And that's sort of the things his character thinks about. And that's the things that, as fans, we get to think about as we're watching this movie. So Batman, obviously, is the best character in the movie. But someone else, I believe, deserves some recognition was James Gordon. I love this James Gordon. It might be my favorite representation of the character. We have seen James Gordon kind of struggle with teaming up with Batman before, giving information. He's a police officer, Batman is a vigilante, so we get that friction, usually. But in this movie, we don't really feel like James Gordon has any regret helping out Batman. We don't feel that he really... What I'm trying to say is he seems to be more of a partner to Batman in this movie, more so than the other variations we've had. And that's something that was just entertaining. We finally got to see a team up. That's one thing in Christian Bale's Batman that we really didn't get to see any team ups. Ben Affleck's Batman, there were team ups, but that was his purpose. That was his version in the DC movies, in this universe they've created, as he was meant to be a team up Batman. So we never really got to see his own version of the character. And this was something that I really liked to see. And one of the other characters I want to mention, not just the opening for the Riddler, but his story. Every time he's doing something in Gotham, every time he's attacking one of his targets, it's the same vibes as the opening. It's terrifying. He's just the kind of villain that there's really nothing about him left for you to root for. You just can't help but root for Batman. There have been times I've rooted for the villain before, but this was not the case. Now, when it comes to the lore, I loved how it was handled in this movie. He has his Batmobile, but we don't really see any other vehicles of his. We don't see a lot of his tech. They leave room for so much more parts of Batman's lore to be reintroduced and reinvented in his sequel, in the later movies. And I hope he gets plenty of sequels. I hope this becomes a long-lasting franchise thing with Matt Reeves at the helm for the Batman. We find out that he's been Batman for about 2 years. So it leaves room for a lot. And what I mean by that is he's already met Selina Kyle, but she left the city. So we don't know if she's going to be in the sequel or not. There are so many allies of Batman that just weren't mentioned in this movie. So we don't know if maybe he's had those allies before or they will be reintroduced in the sequel. And it's the same for his vehicles and the gadgets and the tech. There's so much that can be reintroduced again later on. And I think that's something exciting. That is something to look forward to. Another scene I really want to mention was the Batmobile chase scene. It was simple. It was grounded. It was realistic. As much as you can have Batman be realistic. It was just one of the most entertaining chase scenes I've seen in movies in a long time. One of the things that I thought made it great is some of the movies I've seen recently, there are some chase scenes with vehicles where it's shot very, very shaky, where the camera's shaking. You totally filmed in a car, which makes it look better, but if you're getting a headache watching a vehicle chase scene, it just turns you off. It takes you out of the moment, and you're not getting the reaction that the director may have wanted. So this scene with the chase scene, it didn't do that. It was shot very well, it was entertaining, and it was a great time to sit in the theater and see everyone's reaction to this moment in the movie. When it comes to the plot, I thought it was a great plot. And there's so many different things to say about it, but one of the things that I think stood out is how everything connected. This is one of those movies where there are several different characters toward the beginning, toward the first half, and in the second half, when it's getting toward the closing, all these stories kind of connect and all become one. And I think that was one of the strongest parts about the movie. Especially the criminal underworld, with Penguin, with Carmine Falcone, with the Riddler. Everything kind of connected. And I thought it was great. When it comes to the closing for this movie, I've watched DC's Gotham. I've seen Christopher Nolan's trilogy for Batman. And I haven't seen every iteration of Batman. But there were so many elements for so many different projects that was in this closing climatic story. Between Gotham being flooded, between trapping all of Gotham's citizens in one place. There's so many different other movies that you could see hinted in this one. And it felt like this movie really catered to Batman fans from different versions. It catered to Michael Keaton's Batman fans. It catered to Christian Bale's Batman fans. Ben Affleck's was more violent. Now, even though he didn't really have a no-kill code, his movies were more violent, and the violence tone of his were closer to Robert Pattinson's than the other ones, I feel. And that's something that was great to see. The closing was climactic. It was suspenseful, and it had a plot twist, and there was a cliffhanger. They left so much to be desired for the sequel. There was a lot to be hyped for, a lot to look forward to, and overall, I felt that Matt Reeves' Batman was similar to Infinity War, in the sense of that it sets up a sequel so well, while at the same time leaving so many stories open. And I think that's something that was great about this movie, is how much it left open. We don't know if there's going to be Harley Quinn. We don't know if we're going to get more and more villains who are just now becoming the villains. We don't know if we're going to get more enemies of his that maybe he's fought before. And it kept that mystery element intact throughout this film's entirety. Overall, the movie was grounded, gritty, violent, sets up everything so well that I think this was one of the most near perfect comic book movies I've probably ever seen. So, if you're a Batman fan and you haven't seen this movie, I would definitely recommend checking it out. There's something for every kind of Batman fan in this movie. And if you haven't seen it yet, once you watch it, I guarantee that you'll be satisfied, that you'll be entertained. This movie's everything you want in the comic book genre, and it's everything you want for Batman. So that's been my review of this movie. Go check it out, guys. Have fun.